Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you notice that the name of my channel has slightly changed, it is because I feel like the new name actually fits me better than the older name. The other one I had Prepping for Life. Now I've changed it to Naomi May Sustainable Prepping. And I'm not just someone who does prepping, I'm also someone who's working toward a more sustainable life. Slowly but surely. You do what you can do as you can do it. Now, there are many things that I remember learning from my grandma. Things I watched my grandma do when I was a child, and I would think, that is so weird. But my grandma was a product of the Great Depression. She was born in 1932, so she was born during the Great Depression. So her family, they had to do a lot of things. They had to reuse stuff. They had to find a use for everything because money was tight. Food was, I wouldn't say that her family starved because they didn't, but they didn't have a lot. So there are little tricks and things that she learned from her parents from living during a time when there wasn't plenty that I got to see as I was growing up. And there are things that Grandma taught me that I have found to be very useful, especially now with my little journey toward not only just being a prepper and being prepared, but also my journey toward a more sustainable life. The less waste, the better. So some of the things that my grandma, that I would see her do, that I remember when I was a kid thinking that is the weirdest thing ever. I remember her washing Ziploc bags. She would wash out the Ziploc bags when she washed the dishes, rinse them really good, and would put them upside down, open in the dish drainer to dry so that she could reuse those Ziploc bags. And I always thought that was like crazy. But now as an adult, I look back and I think, I wonder how much money she saved by reusing her Ziploc bags. If they weren't torn, if there was nothing wrong with them, I think Grandma was doing things right. She got as much use out of a product as she could before it ended up in the trash. And I even remember watching her wash, I guess, foil. There's so many things that she would reuse or wash that we don't do that today. Everything goes in the trash and you just go buy new. So some of the things that I learned from my grandma are super useful. If you can learn from older generations, you will learn some amazing things. When I was a kid, my grandma, she taught me how to darn socks. Who does that anymore? I don't think anybody knows how to darn socks. You just go buy new ones. She taught me how to make soap by starting with ashes. Like she taught me some of the most basic things, the things that we need to have for everyday life. She taught me how to start with almost nothing and come up with those things. So it was amazing. My childhood, I spent a ton of time with my grandma. I loved my grandma. The sun rose and set on my grandma. My grandma was someone, she loved me so much. She loved me probably more than anybody in my life has ever loved me. And she was just, and she didn't have money. She had very little, but she knew how to get by with very little. She was very good at it. I would spend my childhood going to spend maybe a week with Grandma. We spent every weekend with Grandma. We would work in the garden all day. We would go out, we would do laundry. She had this old washing machine, and I think it would be called a portable washing machine, but it was this big rectangle, and it wasn't big. I thought it was big when I was a child, but now as an adult I look back and I'm like, oh, that was really small. But it was this rectangle washing machine. It was electric. It was yellow, and she'd have to plug it in, but she also had to haul water to fill it, and she'd plug it in and turn it on and let it run its cycle, and then she would have to put fresh water in for the rinse, run the cycle, and then wring it out with an old-fashioned wringer, and then we'd hang it on the line. So we did a lot of things old school, the hard way. And at that time, for me, it was just, I love spending time with my grandma. This is the greatest thing ever. Now as an adult, I'm looking back and I'm going, that really was the greatest thing ever. If I had to darn a sock, I can darn a sock. So if I had to make soap from ashes, I know how to make soap from ashes. These are all amazing skills to have. And so many people don't realize just how amazing it is to be able to take nothing and make it into something, or how to pinch pennies and save money and get by with less. There are a lot of things that people today just don't understand because our society is pushed into buy. It's, oh, hey, your phone is now, that you bought like a few months ago, it's now outdated. You got to drop another at least $1,000 on a new iPhone because your iPhone's outdated. Clothing, even clothing, it's not made to last anymore. It's called fast fashion. It goes out, they mass produce it, and it's not made to last. It's made quickly in high volumes so that it will fall apart and you have to rebuy. I have discovered that I prefer buying my clothing higher quality so that it lasts longer. It saves money, it saves on the environment, because those plants that are mass producing all of that clothing, those plants are putting a lot of chemicals into our atmosphere, into our groundwater. If we could reduce that, it would make our planet a healthier, better place for all of us. So I have moved toward buying clothing that is higher quality and will last longer. I am starting to sit down and think about all of the things that I watched my grandma do that would now be just considered crazy. And I'm thinking, my grandma, she was brilliant. She knew how to save. She knew how to get the most possible, all the use out of something that you possibly can. She knew how to do that. She saved containers that she bought food in, like jars and stuff like that, and reused them. There's no reason that we can't do stuff like that. If you buy a jar of spaghetti sauce and you clean out the jar, you don't have to go, say, buy a jar when you make something that you need to put in a jar if you hang on to that jar. Now, does everybody need a gazillion jars of spaghetti sauce or a gazillion spaghetti sauce jars? No, probably not. But if you can reuse some of those jars and then recycle the rest of them, that's a good thing. Even recycling, though, has its downsides because even that is going to use a lot of water. It's a whole process, recycling. So if you can use less, it is even better than if you are wasteful and use a ton and then recycle, if that makes sense. So that being said, I am moving toward a more sustainable life, as I have mentioned. And in this journey, I'm using things that my grandmother taught me. And in a way, I feel like it's putting her teaching to use. It is a way to honor my grandmother. It is a way to keep my grandma alive through me. If I would use all of those things, one thing as a parent that I would hope is that if I died, that my kids would remember lessons that I taught them. So for me, taking things and that my grandma taught me and using those things, it's a beautiful thing. It means that everything that she taught me, all the time that she spent with me, it wasn't for nothing. So cherish and treasure the time with your elderly relatives. Listen to their stories, learn from them. They have such treasures of experience that we can all learn from and hopefully make for ourselves a better life because of the fact that we are willing to learn and put to use great information. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys again very soon.